Okay, welcome. So in this episode, we are looking at about how to create how to work with a real server, an FTP server, but we are using uh, a Linux server that is actually running on Amazon Cloud. So we just do a little bit of Linux. We'll just dive right away into it. To be able to access my server, I use Putty. In previous episodes, I actually spoke about Putty. Putty is just a tool that gives allow us to remote desktop or to do a lot of things into our server. I did the configuration of this, how to set up a server, a real server in one of the extension courses. I think you should look at that. So so this is the server I set up. I think everybody knows about this if you have been following the tutorials. So I just opened my server. So I spoke about how to having access into your light sale, Amazon account and everything. So basically, what am I logging as? I'm logging out as Bitnami. This is the name Amazon light sale gave me. But you can actually create other users. Basic, basically, that's it. So what am I trying to do here today? I'm trying to create a directory. This is where I'm going to store my files. So first of all, I want to check where I am currently. In Linux, to do that, I just do pwd. That means print working directory. So that means currently I'm in home/bitnami. So in this place, I want to create a new folder. So to create a new folder, is the command is make directory. Um, and the folder name is called, because we are working for the organization we post. Normally this is sufficient. I get it, but I always the administrative guys, we do something to make things a little bit more easier. We just add /m777. What this means, it gives like all the permissions you can read, write, modify on this folder. So if you're not conversant with Linux, this is just 777 gives you like the rights to do everything on a particular folder. That's what I'm just simply doing here on every folder, to be able to read write. So let's see. Okay, and we have created the folder. Let's check again whether it's true. To check whether if we have this folder currently, we just do ls shows the name of the folders that we have in this. So we can see Bitnami application, password, various documents, and also we see the name of the folder we just created. We post underscore 01 is something I created previously. Um, to be able to go into this directory, we just do use the command cd, which means change directory. Change directory. And we will check if there's any file currently in this folder. We'll just do ls. So currently this folder is empty. So basically, what are we going to be doing today? We're just going to be simply reading from our database and actually trying to be saving a CSV file into this folder. So let's go back to Anypoint Studio. So a new flow, a new configuration file. So what do we call this? db2 sftp. So today I'm using scheduler to start my service. I want it to run every, typically, like you might, this is what we are trying to do today, is to create a report that at the end of every month it goes and collects all the customer and their address. So basically what do they send it to their marketing team for follow up, for emails and all those. So this is something we are trying to do, a scenario where at the end of every month we create we just say, okay, go to the database, read all the transactions. You can actually do all transactions for this month. You can actually do that in your SQL query. You can do that in your SQL query, and from that, we are just going to be saving it into a CSV file. So let's get started. But because here we don't have the luxury of a month, we're just doing it every 60 seconds. Then the next thing, I just put a logger. After every activity, I put a logger to just show me what's happening. Just logger. I'll just say process started. Then the next one I want to see is I want to do a select from the database. So for my database, I've already set up the configuration files which I've used in the JSON to DB scenario. So I'm just using that same scenario. So all I'm just doing here is writing my SQL query. A simple SQL query. Select. I'll just do ID, comma, customer name, comma, and address. From transactions. So this is pretty much easy. We are just only selecting three columns, and this set statement is all done. Now we are not actually in a you can actually set a variable and be doing okay for per month. There with that you have an input parameter, but for this scenario we are not doing any of that. So the next step for us is to transform this. We have gotten a message is like it's an array an object array, so we just need to be able to convert this to, so like you can see here, it's an array object. The output payload is an array object. So basically what do we want to do? We want to transform this into a CSV, and like I'm sure you guessed right. So you do that, use a transform operator, transform message. So just it's pretty easy. You don't need to. So basically, when you're working with other applications, you see a lot of you see a lot of libraries to import a lot of libraries. In Mulesoft, you don't do any of that. It's all embedded here. You start right away to work. So basically, which you can see, because of I just put the transform close to the select message, it can see the payload, the current payload. We have the ID, the name, customer name, and the address. So basically what we want to do here, we just want to, the output, we just want to define it as a CSV. So I'm just going to click here, define metadata. So I'm going to do add. I'm going to say customer list. That's the name of my type. I'm creating this and I'm going to make it a CSV. So just it takes a while, yeah. It's going to be a CSV. So the first part, I'm going to have 3 columns. ID and ID, customer name, and address. So I put this so that my column, the CSV has a header column, which makes it easier to read. So I'm just going to do okay. Basically, it tries to, it loads it up for us. What is just left for us is to do the mapping. To do the mapping, all you just need to do is to drag and drop. I'm going from ID to ID. I'm going from customer name to customer name. I'm going from address to address. So that's how we map in there. That's how we map. You can actually make things a little bit interesting by actually doing some functions. Later on, I will show you some couple of functions, how to maybe like add, how to replace, how to capitalize. Yeah. So there are actually a couple of functions, and if you notice here, the output now is no more JSON, it's CSV. So what's the next step for us? We need to save this into the SFTP server. So now you need to be careful about this. So you need to ask yourself, are you working with an FTP server? Because there's a difference. There are different blocks for FTP. So you need to understand, are you working with an FTP or you're working with an SFTP? So FTP is they are both similar, but just SFTP provides you a secured solution. This is what you see in most projects. So this is what I'm going to be working with. I'm going to be doing a write operation using an SFTP, and SFTP server has one secured fields. So if you notice, like the content automatically it fields payload. So if you come back to PuTTY, This is how we access a server. So remember, we have this directory, home slash bitnami slash. So if I do print working directory here, it shows us the current directory we are in. So basically, where do we want to save this file to? We want to save it to slash home slash bits bitnami slash we post slash, we give it the name of a file, maybe we call it clients list.csv. Now note, this part is a directory. It's just like your folder. All we are just doing is we are creating a new file, clients list. Are you getting it? You can actually decide that every new month you give your file a different name. All you just need to do is to use the function here, expression mode, and it creates the new name you want to use. You read the current dates, you convert it to a month, and you work with it. So the interesting part for us is how to configure an SFTP server. So I'm just going to add new. So SFTP config. I'll just leave the SFTP config. I'm not. Let's see what we need to do. Working directory. I'm not giving any working directory because I'm setting my working directory in the paths. So this gives me access to like everywhere. I can have access to everywhere. My host, the one we created, we worked on Amazon. Our host was IP address was 54.06.15. Oops. 206 dot 15 dot 5. Okay, what is my username? Bitnami. Basically, I don't have a password because I'm using what we call an identifier file. So basically, this is what you can actually use it to connect to your server. You can use this to connect to your server. So this is just, I'm using, these are two files. One is a public and one is a private key. I'm using the PPK. So there's no password. But if you have a passphrase in this file, you have to put it here. It's like a password as well. So I'm just going to test connection to be sure everything seems is pretty okay. So the test is okay, and I will load this. Yeah, and see, notice there's a write mode. So basically, what I use write overrides. Basically, if there's a new version, it overwrites it. You can append, you can create new. Create new changes the name, but I just use this. So the last step is just to tell the user, okay, we are done. This is not a very important step, but it's just to use to providing feedback to your applications. Um, process completed. So I think we are ready to go. So I'm just going to save this and just what we have in the schedule every 60 seconds. So let's go and see what happens in the next 60 seconds. Let's see whether to create a file in this directory for us. We post directory. Let's see. So it has completed. So let's check the directory, what we have to, and if you remember the command to see what you have in a directory, use the ls command. So you see, currently we have a file, clients list underscore csv. So this file contains everything you have inside the database. So use the cat application to see the clients this file, to see what's inside. And you can see currently we have id, customer name, address. This is the header that we defined, and we all have these values. So this brings us to the end of this session. Thanks, and Feel free to ask questions in the comments in the forum, and we'll get back to you.